Hi, my name is Gil Robertson, president of the African American Film Critics Association. Today, we're absolutely thrilled to be talking to Nikki Yatu, the creative responsible for the hit Amazon Prime film, The Nanny. We're going to kick things off by introducing you to our facilitator today, Ms. Katia Woods in Philadelphia. We also have AAFCA member Reggie Pounder in Chicago, Janita Davis in Denver, Dana Abercrombie in New York, Carolyn Hines in Toronto, Rhonda Rasha Penrice in Atlanta, Samuel Leggett in Washington, D.C., and Nancy Green in Baltimore. I want some crab cakes. They don't taste like they taste there anyplace else. They're delicious. Anyway, not to digress, but we're going to kick things off. I'm going to let you guys do what you do so well, and I will see you on the other side.
I miss you.
Love you, Mommy.
Say bye-bye.
Bye, Mommy.
Honey, Aisha's here.
Aisha.
I don't want you to feel overwhelmed.
Okay.
Here's any number you need, including her therapist. Thank you.
Let's go.
Jobs don't fall from the sky. Just work hard to keep it.
Where you from?
Starts with an S.
South Africa. Okay. Senegal. Oh, we got a winner.
Aisha, look.
I haven't seen my son in almost a year.
Your son?
Yes. I need to bring him here. Very soon, Lamin.
Oh, it's very soon.
The spirits are trying to warn you. Do not ignore the signs. You have yet paid me what I am owed.
You think Cash is just laying around?
I am a mother too.
I thought so.
I miss my country. Every day. You gonna be okay? I wish I knew what's happening to me.
Hi, Nikki Yatu. My name is Reggie Pounder. I'm the real critic out of Chicago. And in watching this film, there was some tough times in watching the film, but I felt that there was a lot of hope in this film still. Can you speak to that?
Yeah, I'm really cognizant as a Black woman of the ways that Black women have been conveyed in the mainstream, and the ways that we are treated in real life. And so as someone who's maneuvering a darker genre of horror, and the conventions of horror inherently require that you drag your protagonist through the mud, I'm constantly balancing that act of, speaking to the conventions of the genre that I'm navigating, but also having compassion for my Black woman protagonist. So I never want to convey a woman who is unloved, who has no nuance, who has no hopefulness. I love final girls, the concept of that in horror, and I rarely get to see Black women who are the final girl. But even in that finality, Black women deserve so much more than we've been given historically. And so I'm trying to level set that as a filmmaker.
Wow, thank you so much.
Thank you for that.
Hi, I'm Janita Davis from Detour XP and The Black Cape. Great to see you.
Nice to see you, Janita.
I love how horror creators like yourself take topics that are uniquely ours and translate them into something that's terrifying to make it more, I guess, easier for the public at large to understand. And I love the way you took just the simple idea of the distance between mother and child and made that into a terrifying thing, a terrifying layer, of one of many layers in this movie. Can you talk about the process that you went through in, you know, kind of translating all of these little elements into something that was horrifying? I mean, it translated them into horror elements.
You know what, Jonita, depending on who you talk to, people are like, this is not horror, but for me, the horror is in the banal, is in the mundane, is in the everyday ways that we as Black people maneuver these systems. And so, like I just read that I was reading about the fact that Black people in America disproportionately suffer from dementia because our brains age faster because of racism over the course of our lifetime. There are all these invisible ways that we are chipped away at, and it's not just spiritually, it's physically. Like literally, our ability to endure this life is shortened because of racism. So it's hard to externalize that in a way that doesn't feel quote unquote preachy, which is why I think horror has been really home for me as a Black filmmaker, because so much of what we maneuver feels horrific. But simultaneously, as Reggie asked, like I don't want to assault the viewer. I'm always cognizant also of my Black audience. I don't want to feel assaulted as a viewer, and I don't want to assault Black audiences with relentless trauma. Like we maneuver enough in real life. So maneuvering the trappings of horror and thriller and the darker genres is an ongoing process for me, but I look to people like Casey Lemons and Jordan Peele for obvious reasons, Bill Gunn digging into the archives of the ways that ganja and hemp was received at his time. Like none of this is in a vacuum. You can always find the ways that people, Black artists who are maneuvering these genres were treated in their time as people didn't understand their work. People didn't receive their work in the present. They were given their flowers much later. So that's a solve for me. Like that's a source of peacefulness for me as I maneuver what is a really capricious, challenging industry. I would argue that the film industry is like the pinnacle of white supremacy and the pinnacle of patriarchy, because you have the power to manipulate the way people feel about themselves and the way they feel about each other. That is essentially playing God in this system. And so I'm just hyper aware of all of those elements.
Hi, Nick. Yeah, to Carolyn first. Here's what happened, and Carolyn talks and
Carolyn, I
podcasts.
owe you an email, don't I?
You
Oh,
do.
3. I owe everybody an email at this point.
It's okay.
Forgive me.
Can you talk about the importance of making Aisha, who's played so beautifully by Anna Diop, not only an immigrant, but she's a West African immigrant from Senegal, and the importance of selecting Senegal as her origin of home? Because for many women who become nannies, many of them are professionals in their home countries,
Yeah.
and they take on what some people consider menial jobs, but they're not. So talk about that immigrant experience, making that the I guess you could say the linchpin for her entire story arc,
Right.
and why Senegal in particular.
So I'm first gen. My family's from Sierra Leone, West Africa, and I knew I wanted the West, because sometimes when you're casting, South Africa comes up a lot because it's essentially like it's the most Americanized, I would argue one of the more Americanized nations on the continent, and people are really comfortable with South Africa. But I knew I wanted someone at least from the region that my family was from. And also, like, I know the comparison to Ousmane Sembène comes up a lot, which I love because he is an influence in my work. And Black Girl is a big influence. It just is a coincidence. But I would even say, maybe it's not, maybe the universe brought us together for a specific reason, because it's too coincidental that the best lead for the role was Anna Diop. And so as you're navigating financing, I always try to educate, especially Black audiences, about how little agency Black filmmakers have. You have to convince the financiers, who are overwhelmingly not Black, why this person should be casted, because they will give you their same list of 5 Black actors who they have considered A-list. Lupita came up a lot, and she's amazing, but I didn't want this to become the Lupita film. And so I love casting authentically. So Anna, I saw her face a while ago, and her face takes up every pixel of every frame. She's gorgeous, but she also emotes so intelligently without saying too much. And I was worried. I was like, I don't know her range. I see her, she's gorgeous, but I've only seen Titans, you know? But she's humble and she was willing to go through the audition process. So she auditioned and she auditioned. There were some people who were like offer only. And that's not the way that I like to work. I like to see what I'm investing in. And so some actors, they start to believe their own clout and believe that they don't have to go through the process of craft. But she's humble, she's brilliant. She has that perfect intersection of a mainstream piece in the Titans and the authenticity of her own mother did domestic work, which I later learned. She was raised in Houston, Texas, born in Senegal, but raised in Houston, Texas. I was raised in Atlanta, Georgia, to Sierra Leonean parents. So we had a lot of parallels. And then she killed her auditions. And then she was willing to do chemistry casting with the Maliks. I had like 3 Maliks that I narrowed down. I had like 3 roses. She did every part of the process. She was down. And you can see it on the screen that she literally wanted to do her own stunt work as well. So she was immersed in the process in the ways that I like to work, but she also struck that intersection of the mainstream for the financier's peace of mind. Because listen, left to me, everything I cast will be street casting. I'll go on the street, plug people, have them audition, because I mean, I think we are people of inherent, we're inherently camera ready, a lot of us. So I'm always down to like just really have an organic, authentic process. But those were the variables that informed me casting Anna.
Hi, Nikiatu. This is Katya Woods with the
Hi,
Philadelphia
Katya.
Tribune. And
I met you in person.
I know, right?
When I was trying to grab food, I'm always trying to grab, like literally every time I see people, I'm trying to eat because they don't give me time to eat. I feel like an indentured servant.
Absolutely. It's important to keep up your nutrients. My question to you is in the spirituality aspect of it. I think we sometimes forget that Christianity was something that was forced upon you. My family's from Brazil. My father was raised Catholic, but my father practiced and wore his support of Macumba Voodoo. You know, it's all of that. You know, New Year's is a big thing for that religion. Talk about that, because I think a lot of people miss that aspect of the movie, you know, thinking of it as excuse the expression, like mumbo jumbo, not understanding is an actual spirituality.
I'm sad that I gave this dude like even 5 seconds of time.
I know, right? Very, very rude. And but a lot of people, because again, it's something that's frowned upon, and it's something that carries a lot of shame because we are so embedded in Christianity. Talk about why that is important to show that this is not just a dream sequence. This is a part of our DNA. We have practitioners of this. This is a part of our African culture, and we should not be shameful of it.
I mean, Katya, you said everything. I need to just bring you on panels with me because you know, people think because my parents are from Sierra Leone that I was growing up with Anansi and Mami Wata. Like, no, they're very indoctrinated by Christianity to the point where they threw me into a white Christian school growing up in Atlanta and not realizing what that actually means for a Black girl in Georgia, you know? And so they're still very indoctrinated by Christianity. And I've learned to not indict. We all have our survival techniques, you know, and I tried to challenge my mom a few times growing up about spirituality and pre-colonial West Africa. Like, what were people doing pre-colonialism? You really have to dig into the archives for that, because colonialism brought Christianity and it conditioned us into believing that this white Jesus and this white God was the way. And it's still a point of contention, so I tread the line very carefully. I was just in Lagos, Nigeria, and I had to really be careful about the ways I talked about Mami Wata, particularly because people still see Mami Wata and the Marine Kingdom spirits as satanic. but all of it is by design. And I'm very spiritual. I won't say I'm like a Mami Wata priestess, but I'm more interested in the ways that we worshiped and venerated the universe and the earth and ourselves pre-colonialism versus what came post-colonialism. And Christianity is one of the tools that not only I believe, but historically has been a tool of control for Black people diasporically. So we can't deny the universe. We can't deny what's happening with climate disaster. Water is a motif in the film for a reason. It can destroy in 5 seconds what humans have created in over the course of decades, you know, and we see it happening actively in different nations, the way that water is tearing things apart. So the proof is in front of us in terms of the ways that we should venerate the earth. We should be close to the universe. We should pay attention to the world we inhabit. So outside of just thinking about the spirits and the ways that we've resisted through Anansi and Mami Wata and other figures, like the evidence is in front of us, and it's something that permeates my work in different ways. And Brazil has been so loving to us. They love Anna. They've been forced to love me now because I'm the filmmaker of the film, but they're so embracing. Like, I've been so warmed by their love for us. And I don't think it's a coincidence because Black Afro-Brazilians don't get to see themselves reflected on the screen. And so they get excited when they see Black women portrayed in this way. And I appreciate that. And, you know, obviously the African population, diasporic population in Brazil is massive.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for this beautiful film.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hi, Dana Abercrombie, the Coalition. I want to focus on capitalism for a second.
Okay.
What did you want the Nanny to say about kind of the U.S. conditioning us to normal outsourcing our child rearing in order to participate in the rat race of capitalism?
Thank you for that question, Dana. Capitalism is a big theme in all of my work, and I find that horror is a covert way to slide in that messaging about the detriments of capitalism. Capitalism has become, you know, is a tool that has, what's the word? It has validated racism, like it's intertwined, capitalism and racism. And so chattel slavery was validated through like, these are not human beings, these are workers, these are animals who are creating wealth for, you know, a nation. And so capitalism impacts all of us historically, past, present, future. It continues to impact us all, and it continues to enslave us all, whether you are at the perceived top of the hierarchy or the perceived bottom of the hierarchy. No one is free in this system. So it's something that really pervades all of my work, is commentary on outsourcing that labor. Like you said, Dana, like there are pieces of me in Amy, there are pieces of me in Aisha. Like, what does it mean to have a mother like Aisha and then quote unquote elevate to a class of an Amy as a Black woman who now has to hire a nanny because I'm working? You know, I'm making money, I'm part of the workforce, maybe I'm the breadwinner, and now I have to outsource work to a woman who is fresh from Sierra Leone or is, you know, is an immigrant woman, Black immigrant woman. So it's cyclical, but who I think loses the most is women in capitalism, and especially women who, you know, have children. Like, this society professes to support motherhood and love mothers, and they really love that we're pumping out a whole workforce for people out of our wombs. That's really what they love, because there's no support for mothers who disproportionately have to do domestic labor and participate in the workforce.
Hi, my name is Nancy Green with Film Critique.
Hi, Nancy. I didn't know this was gonna be rapid fire. I should have drank a Red Bull before this. Yo, I feel like I'm on CNN.
Right. It's good. It's good though.
It is good. It's fruitful.
Yeah. But yes, I really enjoyed this film, and I love the incorporation of Mami Wata and Anansi.
Thank you.
And what I wanted to know was, you know, there's a separation here with Lucy and Amy and Aisha. where it seems like
Who's
the little
Lucy?
girl.
Did you
Oh, I'm
say
sorry,
Lucy?
I got her name wrong. The
Rose?
little girl.
Rose.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, Rose.
I'm making sure I'm in the right room.
But there's one point in the movie where Rose seems to know more about what's going on than Aisha does. And so can you speak to that, like how there's a similarity between how Aisha and Amy are very sort of separated from their instincts, from their selves, and whereas you have this little girl who is connected in this way to a culture that's not
These are
technically
such good
representing her.
questions. These are all really good questions. So Nancy, I love this question. One of my first jobs in school was teaching. I was at NYU grad film. I went straight from undergrad, but I still needed to make a living. And I was teaching in different schools in New York City, all over the city, Queens, the Bronx. Like I was popping into schools teaching filmmaking. And I would teach like elementary schools, middle schools of all different classes and races. Like I taught at predominantly white Latino middle schools. I taught at like in Bensonhurst. I taught like Uzbek students who just got here from Uzbekistan. But what was consistent in the youth, especially the younger kids, like the elementary and the middle school kids, was their capacity for love and their capacity for affection. Like I would walk in ready to end it all, and they would just run up to me like, Miss Jusu, oh my God. They would be hugging my legs, and I'm like, these kids are not sullied yet, you know, by classism and racism and all the isms. So I find that, you know, like most of us do, that children are conditioned to take on the isms that they believe in. We're born really pure, but as we navigate life, we become conditioned by, you know, racism, classism, etc. And the magic is always there. Like Toni Morrison is a foundational text. All of her work is foundational for me in terms of the ways that she perceives magic, just always at the surface of everything. No matter how much, you know, we're conditioned to believe in this rat race of capitalism and realism and what we can see and touch and taste immediately, there's always some magic just brimming beneath the surface of everything. So the combination of my experience teaching so many different types of children and the texts that I adore from the writers and the thinkers I adore is like, there has to be this thing that is wrenched from us as we become older in order to participate in this system. And we lose that ability to see, no matter what race or class we inhabit. And so that was part of the commentary. But Rose and Lamine, Aisha's son Lamine, are on two opposite ends of the spectrum of being valued as a child in this world. The white, blonde-haired, blue-eyed. Rose looks exactly like, that's one of the few things that from the script to the screen is consistent. Like I knew I wanted a blonde-haired, blue-eyed, white child to represent this child that we're all conditioned to value the life of, but we ignore the Lamine, you know? And so that's part of the commentary.
Nice, nice. Thank you.
Thank you,
And
Nancy.
it was very well done.
Thank you. I love your background. I'm biased, but I love your background. Amazing background.
Thank you. And I love the movie.
Hey, this is Samuel. Hey, how you doing? This is Samuel with JVS Media Productions. One thing that I loved about your film is how you, underneath the surface, are talking about mental health. It's not just as transparent as Malik's mother, which dealing with a serious mental health issue, but with Amy. Amy's battling like self-esteem, like she's battling self-worth. Even Malik's grandmother is battling trauma because of what happened with her daughter. And even with Aisha, she's literally on the brink. And I love how you wrote it, because it's there if you're really truly paying attention. But I wanted to hear your perspective on when you were writing it, that was something you knew needed to be in it.
Samuel, thank you for seeing that, because you even expanded it in a way that I don't think I've thought of, in terms of how prevalent the thread of mental health has been in every character. Even Morgan, I mean, Morgan Spector, who plays Adam, you know, he's dealing with his mental unwellness through womanizing.
Right.
So everyone has their coping mechanism in this film. Mental health, unwellness, mental illness is prevalent in my family. It has affected me directly growing up. Like literally the anecdote that Kathleen, played by Leslie Uggams, the brilliant Leslie Uggams, talks about her daughter, you know, when the police come for this mental break, treating this Black woman like an animal, is something that happened in my family. You know, when you call the which is why I love the conversation around who to call for family members or loved ones who are having a mental break is shifting, because the
Right.
police are going to come and, you know, criminalize you and shoot you and do whatever to you, which is not helping the situation. But everything in the script speaks to my experiences and the things that I want to see ameliorated and improved upon in our society, because so much goes down to the core of mental unwellness. You know, homeless population, the crime, poverty, like, and we're not mentally unwell in a vacuum. Like there are reasons for the mental unwellness. A lot of us are not born mentally unwell. It's the circumstances that we're navigating that exacerbates sometimes an already existing issue. So mental health, I'm really passionate about, because it has affected me in many different ways growing up. So thank you for seeing that as a thread for everyone. But again, it goes back to capitalism. Nobody wins, even in white supremacy. You know, people who think that they're benefiting from whiteness are still, they're not winning. Nobody's winning. They're winning in this iteration of existence if we value currency and we value access, which we have to, because this is all we know. But in the grand scheme of things, nobody's well, especially in a nation like this.
Thank you so much. I really
Thank you
appreciate
for that.
No problem.
Hi, thank you. It's Rhonda.
Hi,
I wanted
Rhonda.
to talk about the aesthetic of the film and, you know, what you wanted to convey, because I felt that you could feel the vibrancy and the spirit in the
Thank
way
you.
that the film looked.
Did y'all plan this out? Like everybody has like a category? Because this is chef's kiss. I've had a lot of interviews and y'all are tapping into things that I haven't even really gotten to dig into. So
Girl, it's AAFCA Roundtables, next level.
I love it. I have to do this more often. The aesthetic, yeah, no, I had an amazing, I don't believe in authorship. I've said this in a few interviews. I believe that you are only as strong as your collaborators. And so all of my first choices chose me in return, which is really rare for my department heads. Rena Yang, my cinematographer, I met with so many DPs, y'all. And at some point, because of the technology, everything starts to look the same. Like you look at these reels and everything looks amazing. But what I started to look for in these reels was obviously foundationally, can you light and shoot the beauty of the breadth and depth of Blackness, Black skin, the various iterations of our complexions and our undertones? Do you understand what color temperature speaks to certain undertones? Are you innovative? Are you edgy? Are you willing to play with form and not just pay homage to DPs that you love? Rena encompasses all of that as a Japanese British woman, queer Japanese British, wait, maybe I shouldn't say queer. I don't know. I never know if people are open with that stuff, but she's an anomaly the same way I'm an anomaly in this industry. And she led a whole department of mostly white dudes on set, you know, and I obviously as a director, I walk onto sets and people don't realize I'm the director until we're actively walking through the scenes. Like I've been asked where Crafty was. I've been asked if I was Crafty, craft services, which is fine because I'm just like, they're gonna realize at some point I'm the director. So, but yeah, we navigate the world in a similar way of being anomalous, but she understands the craft of lighting us and shooting us. So that was a really big springboard, Rhonda, for us working together. And she's brilliant. And we exchange imagery from Roy de Carava, you know, the photographer, from Bosco Holder, the Trinidadian painter. We navigated so many mediums in terms of references. and thinking about the way this film would feel and look and sound. And color, even though it's horror, you know, there are horror elements. As a Black person, as an African woman, as an African diasporic person, color is prevalent in our lives. Saturated color, bright colors. We love color. And so I knew I didn't want to go through the tropes of like having this desaturated world that was grays and browns. But if you notice the world of Amy and Adam, it is a little bit desaturated. It is a little bit devoid of soul. Even though they have these images of Black and brown people and they have these blues, it still feels soulless. And all of that is intentional in terms of the ways that we navigated Aisha's world when she's immersed in the cocoon of Kathleen and Malik and Saleh in the hair braiding salon in Harlem and in Brooklyn, you know, like all of that is the cocoon of Blackness, whether you're from Senegal or you're from New Orleans. Like there's a commonality that we have that I want to see more of on the screen, as opposed to just always talking about diaspora wars, because we have so much more in common than we don't.
Yes. When I saw it, I mean, I knew it was very intentional, and I like both of you guys on Twitter. So.
Nikki Yatu, you are fabulous, and we have
Oh,
thoroughly
you guys
enjoyed
are
this
too.
conversation
Y'all woke
today.
me up. I'm over here mad at my team for so many reasons, but y'all woke me up. So I appreciate you.
Well, thank you for your time today. And thank you, AAFCA members, for doing what you do so well. On behalf of the world's largest group of Black film and TV critics, thank you for watching this edition of AAFCA Roundtables. Have a great day.
Thank you all so much.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you for these amazing questions.